Hi everyone, in this video we're going to set up all of our options. So in our video, let's change that to windowed, let's change our resolution. In our audio, there you can use different music. Just going to bring that back down, and our controls we can change. So I'm just going to make it back to space, and then let's quit. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to open up our option scene. I'm just going to close the main scene so I don't accidentally work in there. Just going back to the root folder. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create 3 new control nodes here, because we're going to have one for the video, one for the audio, and one for the controls. So just press Control A and then type in control, and then let's create it. So what we're going to do now is we actually want it underneath the buttons, our top, and then the bottom will be the bottom of our node, and then left and right. So it's going to fill the X value and then fill the Y value from underneath the buttons. So let's just open up our anchor and our margin. So our left is going to remain 0. Our top, let's make it 0.25. Our right, let's make it 1. And our bottom, let's make it 1. Let's change our margins to 0, 0, and 0. So let's duplicate our control node. Duplicate, duplicate. And then let's rename control to CNTRL underscore video. Our control 2 will rename to CNTRL audio. And lastly, our control node 3 is CNTRL controls. Okay, so what we're also going to do is we're going to make all 3 of these nodes. We're going to toggle their visibility so none of them are visible except for our video for now. It's going to be the only one that's going to be visible because of the fact that we're going to be working in it. So now we're going to need to add in all of our different options. We could add in a button for every single resolution, but let's say you have 10 or 20 resolutions, that's 20 buttons. You don't want that because that's just a lot of wasted space. So we're going to use an option called an option button. As you can see here, it's called option button. Create. So the option button actually lets you put all of your different options in it, and it'll make it as a drop-down menu when you click on it. So what we're going to do is let's change its size. So in our rect, in the size, we're going to change it from 39 to 150. And then our position, let's make our X position 50, and our Y position, let's make it 50 as well. So it's just slightly down like that. But now we need to duplicate the option button because we want to do the same for our windowed and full screen. So we're just going to duplicate it, and we're going to move its Y position from 50 to 100. Okay, so let's just rename these to option button. From option button, we're going to call it button resolution. And option button 2, we're going to call button full screen. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to create our, so what we're first going to do is we're going to create our functions, one for resolution and one for full screen. So you can just go to your script, open your script like this, and then underneath our back function, just press enter a few times. And then let's create our first function. It's going to be called function, resolution. Okay, in our bracket, we don't leave our bracket empty like what we do with everything else, but we need to add in a new variable. We're calling it item, and the reason we're calling it item is because of the fact that what's going to happen is when we have our drop down menu, we have to let the function know exactly which one we're working with. That's going to be called the ID or item. So now what's going to happen is underneath our function resolution, we're going to create another new one. We're going to call it full screen. We're also going to add item in the brackets there because again it's a option button. So now what we need to do is we need to connect our option buttons. So it's going to be $, and first you do the CNTRL because that's what we've called our control node, and then you just find video button, and now you say connect. Okay, And instead of pressed, like with the normal buttons, we have to change this one to item selected, because of the fact that we're selecting the item instead of just pressing on the button. And then otherwise it's the same as normal, it's self, and then it's resolution with a capital, just like that. And now we need to do the exact same thing for our full screen. Connect, again, item selected, self, full screen. Okay, now what we need to do is we actually need to add in our items themselves. So what we can't actually add it in manually here, like what you normally would do, where you just add in text or something like that. What we have to do is we have to add it in the GD script itself. So just go to your ready function, and then just do the control/resolution dot add item. So our add item, first we need the text of whatever our item is going to be called. So let's call it 800 by 600. And then next we actually need its ID. And because of the fact that option buttons work with arrays, so an array, what it does is your first value in your array will always start as 0. So we don't start with 1, we start as 0. So now we're just going to add one more resolution. So we're actually just going to have 2 resolutions for now, and then if you want to have any more, you can just add them the exact same way. We're going to be doing it like this, but just to show you, we're just going to have 2 resolutions. So our resolutions are like this. We're just going to have 800 by 600, which is our default right now, and then we're going to have 1920 by 1080. Okay, so what we're also going to do is we're going to, well, just press F6. Remember, I just need to move it from there. And as you can see, there are 2 different resolutions. So what we want to do is that when you change your resolution, we actually want it to show which resolution we currently have selected. Right now there isn't any code for it to do that, so we're first going to put that code in the ready function, and then we'll actually set up everything that when you change the value, well, when you change your item, it will change your resolution. So now we need to go back to our script, and then you just go, it's just an if statement, and then it's options dot raise width equals 800, and options dot raise height equals 600. And now what we're going to do is a dollar control resolution dot select 0 and select like that. So what we're doing here is we're saying if our resolution is 800, well, if our width is 800 and our height is 600, it will select the very first item, which is 0 in our array. The reason why we're doing the width and the height is because of the fact that, let's say we have 800 by 600 and 800 by 720, for instance. What will happen is then it won't know which item in our array to select. That's why you just need to have both. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to set it up that it's also working with our 1920. So I'm just going to copy this, do EL to make it an else if statement. The 800 I'm changing to 1920, 600 I'm changing to 1080, and select I'm changing to 1. So now what will happen is if we have our resolution set to 1920 by 1080, it will automatically show that whenever we go into our options. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to set up our resolution. So just press enter under your resolution function, and we're going to use a match statement, and item is what we're going to match, so 0 and 1. Okay, so what we're going to do here is whenever you select one of your options, it's going to change in our options. It's going to set our res width, and that's going to equal 800, and then it's going to select our res height, and that's going to equal 600. Now what we needed to do is we needed to show that it's actually changed our resolution, so it's going to call our resolution function, and then lastly it's going to save the settings. And then we're going to do the exact same under our 1, which is 1920 by 1080. So we just need to change that and change that. Press F6 just to run the scene, so we immediately start up this scene. Let's change that to 1920. So there, you can see it's there. Let's close this. Let's just run the scene again. And you'll see there, it's got it saved. So now what's happened is we just need, so it's got everything saved, it's saving our resolution, it's changing our resolution. Let's just do the same for our full screen and our windowed quick. Okay, so first, underneath our resolution, let's connect our, we've connected, let's add our items. So it's going to be control full screen dot add item. So now our very first one is going to be called full screen, and in our array, remember, it's 0. And then our second one, I'm just going to copy and paste. In our second item, it's going to be called windowed, and let's change our item to 1. So as you'll be able to see here, we have full screen and windowed, just like that. Let's go to our GD script, and again we're going to do the same here as we did with our resolution. So I'm just going to paste here, and here all we need to do is our options. We don't need our resolution at all, we just need options dot full screen. If it's equal to true, then it's just going to be like that. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to copy this, paste this here, and if it's false, our full screen option button, what it'll do is it will select windowed, and if we play it now, what will happen is you'll see there it says windowed. So let's go F3 to back to our script. Let's set up our full screen function. So we're going to match our item again. It's 0. Here all we need to do is just options dot full screen equals true, and then options dot resolution, we're calling our resolution, and then lastly options dot save game. And now we have 1 because that will be our next item. Remember, 1 is our windowed, so this would be false. And if we had to play it now, let's change it to full screen. As you can see, it's full screen. I'm going to go windowed. Remember, it's just going to change my screen. So there we go. So now you have all of our video options set. So now what we need to do is we need to actually tell, when we press the audio button, we need to hide our video control node like this and show our audio button, and well, our audio control node, and then the same with the controls. So that's going to be quite simple. Just go back to your script. Let's just minimize this, so just make everything easier to read. Under your function video, all that you're going to do is you're just going to go $control video dot show, because remember, when we click our video button, it's going to call video, so we want to show the video control node. Our audio control node, however, we want to hide, and our controls control node we also want to hide. So let's just copy these 3 lines of code, paste them under audio, paste them under controls, and then let's just change the show and hide. So when we call our audio function, we're going to show our audio control node, we're going to hide our video node, and I'm just going to minimize these 2 because we're done with them. When we click on our controls button, we want to hide our audio button. We're going to, our audio control, we're going to hide our video control, and we're just going to show our video control, our controls control. So now what we need to do is let's quickly set everything up for the audio button, the audio control. So in our audio, we are actually going to have 3 buttons and 3 sliders. So the 3 buttons are going to be mute buttons, and the 3 sliders are going to control our audio, our volumes. So press Ctrl A, type in button, so we just need a normal button. Let's quickly change its size. So under rect, change the X size to 150, keep the Y size as 20. Now let's make the X position 50, let's make the Y position 50, and let's actually duplicate this twice. So just click on button 2, change the Y position to 100, and then click on button 3 and change the Y position to 150. So there are our 3 mute buttons that we're going to have. Now click on Control Audio, press Control A, type in slider, and you'll see there are 2 types of slider, H slider and V slider. We want an H slider here, so click Create. Scroll down until you see Rect, and now we're changing its size as well. So the X size is going to be 150, the Y size is going to be 20. Now, what we're also going to do is just scroll up until you see max value. The max value, we want to set it to 2000, because if you remember, in our globals options, our max volume is 2000. So what we're also going to do with our H slider, we're also just going to move its position quick. So the X position is, first it's 150, well that's our button, is 150, plus 50 makes 200, we want an extra 20, so it's just going to be 220, and our Y position is going to be 50. So now what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this twice because we want it for all 3. H slider 3, the Y position is going to become 150. H slider 2, the Y position is going to become 100. So I'm just going to move my sliders underneath each of my buttons just to make it easier, and now let's rename everything. So button is going to become BTN master mute. Our H slider is going to become SLDR underscore master. Button 2 is going to become BTN music mute. H slider 2 is going to become SLDR, I forgot my I, music. Button 3 is going to become BTN effects mute. And H slider 3 is going to become SLDR effects. Okay, so now what we need to do is we actually need to first we actually need to add in our text. So just click on master mute, go to text, and then go mute master volume. In our music, we're going to also go mute music volume. And then lastly, in our effects, we're going to go mute effects volume. Just like that. I'm just saving. Now let's go to our script. I'm going to close the global options and let's actually attach. Well, let's connect quick. So underneath our full screen connect, we're going to go $ control audio master mute dot connect. Okay, here we're just going to press the button self, and then next it's going to be mute underscore master. Okay, so let's quickly, no, we'll create all of our functions next. Well, so now what we're going to do is it's going to be our slider master dot connect. Okay, here we need to have a new one. We can't have press because once again this is a slider. So what we're going to do is it's going to become value changed self master volume. Okay, next it's going to be, which one? Music mute dot connect It's just going to be pressed, self. We'll call this function mute music. Next is going to be slider music. Connect. It's going to be value changed, self, and then music volume. Then lastly, it's going to be our effects mute. Connect. So this is the last of our mute buttons. Mute effects, and then our very last one is going to be our slider. Connect. And remember, the sliders are value changed, self, effects volume. So now let's quickly create our different functions. Just going to minimize already. I need to minimize back. So our first one is function mute master. That our brackets can remain empty because of the fact that it's just a button. Next it's going to be function master volume. Now in our brackets, what we need to do is we need to put in a new value, new variable called value, not that, but value. And the reason we're doing that is because when you're changing your value, it actually saves the value. It's just like with the video where it saved the item, now it's saving the value. So let's create our last functions quick. So this one is going to be function mute music, pass. Next is going to be function music volume, value in our brackets, and then pass. Next is function mute effects, pass. That needs to be capital E, because if the function name doesn't match up, it will give you errors and you may not see it immediately. Function, and then lastly effects volume, value, pass. Let me just make sure I name my mute master, mute volume. Yeah, that's the same, that's the same. All of that's the same. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're first going to do our mute buttons. Our mute buttons are quite simple. First it's an if statement, then it's options dot master mute equals true, well equals true, then it's options dot master mute equals false, actually I want that at the bottom. So first it would be master mute equals false, then it's true, and then if it's false, well, if it's true, it will make it false. If it's false, it will make it true. That's all. So we're going to do that with our 3 different mutes. So now what's going to happen is we're just going to change master mute in mute music. We're going to change master mute to music mute. Copy and replace the master music. The master mute, and then in the effect mute, we're going to change master mute to effects mute, copy, and then just replace those. Save. Okay, so there are our mute buttons working. Next, what we need to do is we actually need to set our master volume. So all we do here, actually forgot something. Underneath your if then else statement, you just need to say options, choose music, and options dot save game. And all we need to do here is we just need to paste these under all of our different effects. So all that this does is it just says that if it's muted, what will happen is it won't play anything, and it just saves it as well. Otherwise, what will happen is you'll change it, but it won't actually change anything. So in our master volume, it's going to be options dot master volume equals our dollar control audio. We need our slider master dot get value, just like that. And then here as well, we just need to paste our choose music. Actually, here we don't need our choose music, we just need to save the game. So we're just going to copy that, paste it underneath music volume, paste it underneath effects volume, and we're just going to change master to in effects volume. In our function, we're going to change it to effects volume here, and the slider master becomes slider effects. And in our music volume, all that we're going to do is we're going to change our master volume to music and our slider music to view. Okay, so now let's play this. Okay, and then I actually just forgot something. Go back to your script and go back to your ready function. Now underneath all of this, what we need to do is we need to do an if statement, and the reason why we're doing that is because when you play it, you'll see that our volume bars, our sliders, they don't actually show where the volumes really are. So we're just going to go to our script and we're going to say, all you're going to do is you're just going to go control, we don't need an if statement, control audio slider master dot set value, and then it's going to be options dot master volume. And then I'm just going to copy this, paste this twice, and then here the second one is going to become slider music, and the master volume is going to become music volume. Next, our slider effects is going to become effects volume. Now let's play this. Where are you? Not showing up. Okay, and as you can see, there it is. I just need to put my headphones on so I can hear if it's actually lowering the volume, but it should be. Okay, and as you heard, there was the volume, it changed. Now I'm just going to play it again quick. Wait, what was that? Okay, and then there you can see there's the different volumes. Okay, so there is our audio controls done. So now let's hide that. Let's set up our controls, our actual controls. Now all we need to do is we're going to add in two buttons. Okay, so these two buttons, one is for pause and one is for, give me a second, let me open this. One is for pause and one is for use. So here all we're going to do is the button, we're just going to change its size to 150 by 20. We're going to make its X 50 and its Y position 50 as well. Let's duplicate that. Let's make button 2's Y position 100. Save that. Now what we need to do is we actually need to add in a label, and the label will tell us what the button is, well, what the scan code works out to. So the button will show in the button text, let's rename it. This will be use, and this one will be pause, because that's what they're going to be. But now we need to actually have visual representation of what they are. So in our control, we're going to add in a label. We're going to change our label rectangle from 40 to 100 and from our Y from 14 to 20. And now let's change our positions. Our X position is going to be 220 and our Y position is going to be 50. And remember, the reason for that is because the X that's 50 plus 150 to 200, and we want it slightly off. Now let's duplicate our label 2, and let's make its Y position 100. So I'm just going to move label underneath button, and button I'm going to rename to button use. Label I'm going to rename to LBL use. Button 2 is going to become pause, that's capital. Label 2 is going to become label pause, sorry. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go F3, and let's quickly, alright, that's our options. I just want to close that. So what we're going to do is we're first going to add in our functions. I just want to press enter a few more times. So our first function is going to be called function use button pause. Next is going to be called function pause button pause. Okay, so in our ready, what we're going to do is we're going to connect our two buttons we've just created. So button use dot connect. Remember, now it's just pressed self, and what we're going to do is we're going to call it use button, just like that. And then next is going to be, when you have quite a lot of your options in the autofill like this, you can just type in with the name itself, so like pause, and then it will just show up everything that has the name in it, just to make everything easier to find. Pressed self pause button, just like that. Okay, so what we're first going to do is F6. What we're first going to do is we're going to actually make our labels show whatever our scan code is, and then we'll actually set up our functions quick. So that's quite simple. All that's going to be is that's going to go use label use dot set text, and now what it's going to go is it's going to say os dot get scan code as the string. So what this means is it's going to read the scan code. Remember, the scan codes is a 32 and that long number, and then it will read it as a string and it'll tell you what it is. So now all you have to do is you just have to go options dot sp pool. Alright, this is use, so sp use, and then what we need is our label pause dot set text os dot get scan code string options dot sp pause, paste that F6, and then there you can see there's our two different buttons. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to set up our functions. So I'm just going to do that. So all that we do here is, first we actually need two extra variables. Okay, so the reason why we have these two variables is because, let me just press F6 and I'll actually show you. Nothing will work now, but I'll be able to show you like this. Okay, so remember, space is one of our controls. But the problem is that when you click on a button and you press space again, it will automatically press that button. So if you use space as one of your controls, or even enter, what could happen is you would get into an endless loop where you wouldn't be able to choose one of those two buttons. So we're going to add in two controls just to circumvent that. So what we're going to do is it's going to be called variable can select equals true, and variable select timer equals 5. Okay, so what this means is that in our can select, we can only select a button if can select equals true, and the select timer means that that's how long it will take up until you can select, after you've selected a new item. So what we need to do now is we actually need to put in our process function. the one that we always delete. Well, right here we're actually going to use it, and we're going to create another new one, and we're going to call it input. And the reason why we're using input is so that whenever you press a button, then it will register in the input function. So in our process function, all that we need to do is we need to go if, where's can select? Give me a second. I don't know why it's not showing can select, but it is right there. Equals true. That's incorrect, sorry. If select timer is larger than 0, what we're going to do is it's going to become select timer minus equals 1, and can select equals false. So the reason we just go select timer minus equals 1, it's exactly the same as you typing select timer equals select timer minus 1. This is just easier way of writing that out. Okay, and now we need an else statement. Don't really need to do, no, we do need an elif statement, and the reason is, no, actually we don't. Sorry, we don't need an else statement. Can select equals true, just like that. Oh, I know why. I put it in the wrong place. It goes before your ready function. That's why it was giving the error. I didn't see that I put it in the ready function. And what we're also going to do here is we're going to say if our control node is visible, then it will actually run this next piece of code where it will show what all of our scan codes are. So we're going to go if $controls dot is underscore visible. Now this will work, so what's going to happen is this code will only work if it is visible. So what we can do is we can actually just cut this and paste this here. Because now what will happen is F6, that will only work if it's visible. So now we're going to minimize that. We need another 2 variables, and these variables are for our controls. So our first one is going to be sp pause equals false, and variable sp use equals false. So the reason we're adding these 2 variables as well is because of the fact that when you click on the button and you want to change your control, it actually needs to know exactly which control it's working with. So our use button is going to have an if statement, can select equals true, then sp use equals true, and oh yeah, now what we need to do as well, press F1, we actually want to create a visual representation of when you can actually change your key, your control. So we're going to add another new control, and this control is just going to have a label in it. So this control, I'm just going to call key like that, and the label, I'm just going to say label underscore name, because with the so in our control, we're going to change its anchor and its margin. The right anchor is going to be 1, and the bottom anchor is going to be 1, because we want it to take up the full screen. So just like that, and then the label name, we're going to stop and press any key, and then the anchor and the margin, it's going to be 1, 1, and then 0, 0. We want it in the very center. So in our lines, we need to change that to center and center, just like that. So normally it's going to be hidden, but when you actually can select a new key, it's going to go controls keys dot show, just like that. So then when you can select a new key, then you'll be able to select it. What we're going to do here as well, we're just going to copy this, we're going to paste this for the pause button. So pause, just like that. We're going to minimize our functions. And now in our input function, what we need is we first need an if statement. So we're going to go if event is input event key, just like that. You don't need the underscore, sorry. So what we're saying here is, remember with the function, it's going to register an event. That's whenever you put whenever you press a key, then it's going to say if the event is actually pressing of the key, now can we do something? So we're going to have another if statement. If sp use equals true, what's going to happen is options dot, not pause, use equals event dot scan code. Next, sp use equals false. Then select timer equals 5. So it's just going to be that. And then I don't think we need anything else. Oh yeah, let's just make can select equals false. So let's copy this, paste that there. Don't need that one. Let's just change SPUs to SP pause. Copy this, replace SPUs to pause. Oh yes, what we do actually need is control key dot hide. Because remember what we're going to be doing is we're going to be showing the key control. Now we just need to hide it, just like that. So let's press F6. I was just thinking if there's anything else. This here. Press F6. Because of the fact that the control was there, I couldn't select any of the buttons. That's why that was there. So now, I use button, space. As you can see, let's actually change that to Q, space, just like that. So there, now we've got all of our controls done. Let me just do this, F6. So whenever you open the controls, it will probably look like that unless you want one of them to be open by default. There's our video, there's our audio, there's our controls, our back, our menu template, just like that. Okay, so there's all of our controls done. Hope you got... and now next what we're going to do is we're actually just going to create our in-game pause menu, and then we'll be done with the menu template. Thanks guys.